Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to Mixed Media Mayhem combined with May I Scraplift You. This works well because we typically scraplift somebody on Friday for Mixed Media Mayhem. And today our inspiration is coming from Suzanne Rose Art. I will put a link to this video that she did down below in my description box in case that is of interest to you. So I started out with a piece of white cardstock. This is just the close to my heart cardstock, but I did gesso it. I also like to tape my cardstock down onto a piece of foam board that is covered in clear packing tape. And the reason I do that is, first of all, the packing tape provides a barrier between my foam board and my paper, so the moisture doesn't go through to the foam board. But I also do it so that I can just set it aside and let it dry, and it dries flat that way. So I don't have any bumps or ripples on my gessoed piece of paper because it's been sitting for a couple of days drying. It doesn't typically take a couple of days to dry, but I just set it aside and went about my business and worked on other things, and now I'm coming back to it, and it's nice and flat. So I pulled out some of the Vicki Boutin art crayons, and I'm going to use those to work on this. I believe she used some sort of water-soluble art crayon style thing in hers as well, but I'm not sure what brand or anything like that. But I am just taking some water and I am scribbling the art stick or the art crayon onto the paper, and I'm just getting it wet. Now, if I didn't have the gesso on there, the lines from the scribbles would not go away completely. They would still be there, and everything would soak in a lot quicker. So I'm just kind of playing with the thought of I need some blue and I need some green. That's what she has in hers. I didn't necessarily need to do it the exact same colors, except for that the photo that I have has blue and green in it. So that is why I decided to go ahead and do that. I'm not going to go with the bright red that she's got. I'm going to add a tiny bit of orange, but it's going to be very subtle. And so I'm just kind of playing around with getting all of this pigment down onto my page, and I'm trying out a couple of different greens. You'll see here, this one's got a little bit more into the blues, which I kind of already have that color over where the blue and the green connected, but that's okay. I want to add a little bit more and be a little bit more intentional with where it's at. So pulling that color in with the art crayon rather than blending the two colors worked out well. Now, I don't want my center to be completely blank, but I want it to be so light of a wash that it looks white in the middle. So I basically just kind of clean out my brush and drag just a tiny bit of the pigment into the center. Now, mine does not look anything like hers at this point, but I promise it's going to get a little closer. Now, and of course, you know, when you scrap lift, you don't have to do exactly what the other person has done. You can take your inspiration and go from there. But I stayed pretty close to what is going on in hers, with the exception of I don't have butterflies and I'm not using that red. Here I'm going to start adding a little bit of orange, and I have to be a little cautious adding the orange near the blue because orange and blue together when they are wet will make brown, in case you were not aware of that. It's one of those things. I kind of waited till the edges were a little bit dry before I worked in that area, and now you can see I'm letting the orange dry before I do anything else over on those edges. And my orange is very, like I said, it's very subtle. I did add a little bit of spray mist here. I think that is Calypso Teal that I just tapped off, but I'm not going to kind of leave it. I'm blending it out just a bit. Especially since I do have a warped paper at the moment because all of it's wet. Once it all dries, it's going to go back to flat though. So if you are someone who doesn't like warped pages with mixed media like me, this might be a good solution for you. I do get teased a little bit by some of my mixed media pals who don't mind the warping, but I know for a lot of people it's a real thing. Like, you don't really want your paper to be all wonky. So I was considering starting with the black crayon there and making my circles like she's got, but I decided to hold off and let it dry. I felt like if I went ahead and did it right then, there was too much moisture on the page, and it was too rippled to do that. Like, there would be more pressure from the crayon where the bumps were than where the valleys were. So I kind of waited till it dried a bit, and I'm just going to work on these corners a little bit more to bring in some additional color, but not have it overwhelming. I'm just pulling a little bit of the pigment off of that brown crayon and bringing that in. It's super light, and I just have a wet brush that I'm just kind of running on there. Now I do decide I want a little bit more of the orange, so I am going to bring it in by adding a darker orange crayon, but I'm just adding a little. I'm not adding a lot, and I don't want to go overboard. I definitely don't want to make brown, so I'm being cautious of that. You can kind of see where the blue and the orange met up there in the corner. It got a little bit on the dark side, so again, I'm just being cautious. So now that it's dry, I went and pulled out my black crayon. And again, these are the Vicki Boutin art crayons, not just a regular color crayon. And I've got a wet brush, and I'm just kind of smudging it out. I'm not trying to make it look like like it's super liquidy, but I also don't want the brush strokes or the crayon strokes to be like I just took a pen or a crayon and wrote around it. I want to kind of brush them out. I know I have this stamp. It's called Splotch. It's from Wild Whisper. And I'm just using some archival ink to ink it up and stamp it in the areas where I think I want my mixed media to reside. Similar areas to what she's got. She's got some circles going on, so I thought this stamp worked well. And as you notice, I didn't ink up the entire stamp. I kind of just go diagonal across it because I want to kind of stay on the circle there. And then very intentionally, I want a couple that are off of the circle. I also have this little tiny stamp. This is one of the Elementals stamps from Prima. I'm guessing it's by Finnabair. It has her logo on it, and it's been in my stash for quite some time. I don't even know if it's available anymore, but it's I'm trying to see if there's actually a name on it. There is no name on it, so I will put a link down below if I can find it for you, if that's something that's of interest to you. It is basically just a text stamp, and any text stamp would work. I also was very intentional that I didn't want it to have flat lines where the edge of the stamp ended, so I kind of kept it bent and not on a block. I just used it on its own backing. I just put a little ink on it and kind of bent it so that I didn't have like a firm edge or a straight edge. I do have a little bit of a straight edge in the upper right there, or upper left, but for the most part it worked out really well. And then I used a stamp set that I borrowed from a friend. It is a stitched stamp set from Close to My Heart, and I'm going to get the link for that and put that down below as well. And I did not use it on a block either because I wanted the ability to curve it to have the stitching lines follow the line of the circle. And so I'm pretty happy with the way that came out. And that's kind of what you do in mixed media. You kind of just make it work for you. And, you know, if you don't want straight lines, curve your stamp, bend it. It's not a big deal. Then I have these rub-ons, and these are from the new 49th and Market Spectrum sherbet. And it is the Tidal Wave rub-ons. All of the cool colors are called Tidal Wave. The warm colors, the pinks and yellows and stuff, are called Strawberry Lemonade, I believe. And so I'm just using the ones from the Tidal Wave side, and I'm going to go ahead and rub those on. And I realized I was trying to rub it on with the foam board underneath, so I wasn't getting great pressure. So I will be taking that off of the foam board pretty quick here. There we go. We're off the foam board now, and I actually put an acrylic mat below it. It's just a piece of acrylic that my son gave me when he worked for an acrylic company, and so any flat desk would work well. And so I'm going to go ahead and rub those out so that they just stick really well. And these rub-ons work pretty well. I've had some that are so sticky that you touch the page and you can't lift them off again without leaving your rub-on behind, and I've had them where they're so dry that you can't get them to stick on the page no matter what you do. And these are closer to the really wet ones, but they're not so wet that, if you touch the rub-on, it's going to peel off on your finger or anything. I do have this acrylic piece that says click. I thought that one would work really well. My title is going to be We Just Click, and that is from Color Cast Designs. I will put a link to their shop down below. I have a monthly subscription to their acrylic. You can get a monthly subscription to either acrylic or wood or a combination thereof, or you can just go purchase on their site when you feel that you want to. So I'm trying to stick kind of tone on tone with these. I do want the leaves to show, but I don't want to have like the super teal ones right on top of the yellow that I'm putting it on right now. That is actually a teal one that I put on the yellow, but that's okay. I want some of them to show, but I'm kind of sticking with the same color tones basically. And I'm just kind of trying to figure out where the best place to put them is. Now, if you didn't see me unbox these, I will let you know that my preferred thing to do, and I learned this from a really good friend of mine, so shout out to Maureen, that when you pull your rub-ons out of the package, just put a staple in the corner so the backing sheet stays with it. And then if you happen to cut the entire thing in half, like pulling out one of the rub-ons, staple the piece to the backing that is no longer stapled to the backing. So that is what I end up doing. And that will keep its backing with it so that your rub-ons don't come apart when you put them in their packaging, all your leftover ones. So that's what I was doing there. So it's just a little tip for you, because now my rub-ons are going to be into 2 different sheets. So I wanted to make sure that they had staples so that they can stay together. Now I'm really liking the way this one curved right along the line of the circle there. And if you recall, I did put a stamp up there of the stitching, and I am covering it up a bit. That's okay. That happens in mixed media. It's not a big deal. You can still see that there are layers and layers and layers of stamping and stitch. Well, there's not actual stitching, but there's layers and layers of texture between the stamping and the ink, or in this case, the art crayons and the rub-ons. And that's what makes it so interesting to the eye. And I really like the way that this comes out. Mine's a little bit more pastel than hers, than the original, but that's okay. That's what I wanted. That's what I was going for. Sometimes it doesn't look like your mixed media is how you want it, and it's maybe because you quit too early. I wasn't super crazy with my background until I started adding all of this stuff to it. And then I was like, oh, this looks really cool. So I'm pretty happy with the way that it turned out. And we're going to go ahead and just keep adding until I think that it's done. So don't forget to go and check out the other people that are playing along with Mixed Media Mayhem. We have quite a crew down below in the description box, and I will also put the links to everybody playing along with May I Scraplift You. Now they're going to be scraplifting different people than I am today, or than the Mixed Media Mayhem crew will be lifting. So you'll have a ton of inspiration in both lists. So I think I'm just about done with the rub-ons. The little tool that I'm using comes with the rub-ons, in case you're not familiar. I know a lot of people don't like rub-ons because they do have a shelf life, and sometimes they are hard to use. So that is why I wanted to mention that these ones work pretty well. I didn't really have a super difficult time. I think it was harder to use them on this piece than on a couple of other pieces that I did, because this has the gesso and the mixed media, and everything has a hard time sticking to gesso and mixed media compared to regular plain paper. But as you can see, they're going on fine. It just takes a little bit of rubbing, and it's not a huge effort or anything. And I probably, overdid it a little there. So anyway, I'm just adding a little bit more of the text down the middle. I kind of wanted to bring it so it went across the page, not like it was two separate pieces. And I like the way that that looks. And then I am using my little tiny tile letters that I have stamped and punched, and I am using those to create the words "we just." And I did not have a T, so what you saw me doing there is I pulled out a teal green Muji pen to cross the L, so my L is now a T, and that worked out just fine. The stamp set and dies for this product are no longer available. They are from Paper Tray Ink, and you might be able to find them on a resale site or on a D-stash site or something like that, but otherwise they are not available from the manufacturer. So I'm just going to stick those down with my ATG, and if you notice there, I had a little strip of white paper, and I put some ATG down on that white paper to stick my little letters to, and that makes it easy to move those around on your layout. So this is my finished piece. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, you can definitely let me know. I will go back and add some stitching all the way around the outside, but actual stitching with my sewing machine. But my sewing machine is needing a repair at the moment, so that's the last thing I'll do. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.